English. I take refuge in the Guru.
I take
Take refuge in the Buddha.
I take
I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And by the merit created in this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, feel unbiased attachment and anger. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, Mount Meru, encircled by the continent, surmounted by the sun and the moon, I visualize this Buddha offering. May all living beings enjoy the pure land.
그거 했더니 땅도 땅 같은 로만도인지라 로만도니 다른 도인지 정말 같은 것만 나왔을지 어느 문제에 대해 정말 다른 나자도 조지를 좀 담지 강의도 들으면서 세울 수 있지.
Good morning to you all. Hope everyone is doing well. We're going to continue our today's discussion. Began with the Aryatara mantra recitation, and while you are reciting the mantra and meditate on Shri Aryatara, and please keep it in your mind that we do this for the benefit of all beings, and in particular, aimed to free those who are suffered due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Che di dagli shatti tutti cover tani wena.
커플라트 되어도 매주가 아무도 알고 약간에도 못되디 다메지 셔요. 좀 나와지 무슨 게 같이 잡아라.
Bobby motet ki daim iPad ki volume se ore.
iPad 보면 오 어디지가 이제 다 그래도
다야
나도 성서 칠순날 가라. 아마 보면 이게 보면 기다리다.
Nhầm nhung nhầm.
야, 됐지 되나? 다도
요모 준비되마 모두마가 장자로 장자로마 다리가 도다라의 지본세마 도레도나 담제데마 소와 얘기했잖아라도 요모 다레드리소 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 다레드리소
다다리
예와
네 녀르다 로마르 제네 로아지 정말이와 디살라오 수제나 바지에 바게드나데 터지르진 로에네 말레와 다도 숑와메 브르쇼 만남데 당다 바타서
비전도 보죠.
당에 롱시에고시라 대랑 통통어딜라
If I may, I would like to share a story with you.
제땅 곰자르서 당보 곰자르서데 가이나 좀 말았어 곰 둘이 다도 지다 총총 지내니 전부적 고고스 때강이즈나 가시에니 삼텔라 냠버 자게든지 곰다나 디다 옵티컬라티 동안나 쪼지네 가서 something 그때 당연히 시도가 되는 용거스 대차때 시고시
Okay, my story, something to do with what we just did now, a moment ago. At the end of our meditation, I beat the singing bowl, and you might notice that. So I started with a beat it very kind of gently and slowly, and then the volume of the sound is sort of started from the very lower and reached to the higher. So, and this is important in case that you also lead in the meditation or you meditate. So in the beginning, you can, in order to collect your thoughts or your intentions and everything that's sort of put in one place, a particular place, and in this case, it's a meditation, and be a collective and be very collective, and you need to be with it. But to the end, you need a bit slowly and gently, and then the volume of the sound, and then go from very lower and then reach and it's higher. This is important because in case of somebody who is in the samadhi, in the state of the samadhi and the meditative concentration, if you beat or hit the singing bowl so hard, and then start to create some kind of unexpected negative outcomes. And so my story is related with this.
어떤데 나 그러면 지금 근본은 요르스도 개인성을 근본은 좀 요거 수 동요 쇼가오 저도 색깔 정동요가 오늘 당고 갈래 저들이 당전에 야 좀다 당분이 왔음 같은 게 한거 공다 약간 되게 동거 되네 이 개인성 하시네 쇼핑하고 동주기 당고 로로 저들이 준비 동거들 때 가이는데 온다 때리 지금도 때 아니 미주 쇼핑하고 곰제도 때로나 곰식으로 곰 정도 때리요 이제 아니 뭐마 세라라 때리 그다 다살라 컨터 레폰세라 마시다 컨터 게퀴즈 야장지니 세라라 그쪽 샴바 그쪽 가르제 라마타 심보즈디 되네 그죠 산나 가르고 다도 정말 컨터 자심보즈 때 그정 라마르스데 게코야 게퀴즈네 네 라마데 자가송네 나고 다스 기기키송 가라컨데 지고 이제 랑토 칼루 나오주세 네 그정 칼루 나온데 요코지 데데데샴 데데 자왈 춤데데데 저런 요코지 지스노지 가고금지지라네 반동 전부 요래지네들 까나요 잘 까나는데 요거르송네 까나스 근데 그게 기퀴 차르네다 코페 로치그 자동 차르 지디야 저거 조동도 지분 송이 언제 라만 자르송네 라만 자르송네 딱고 기퀴 차르송네 다 라마가 저기 그다 잡는 요거르데나 집에 랭엄바 삭샤지 랭엄바 가르샤서 되게 제가 다와도 녀다 당마 종들 같이 해면은 대점도 kit령바 상완디 긴골 지시샤지 something 긴골 지시샤지 상완디 something 긴골도 간다 시간이 다야 간다셔서 대고 초초들도 네 지금디 초나다 가와다 파다는 좀 그도는 좀 다지기도 하더라 고팅 하나 손에 기끌한데 지바랑도 동조르기 땅 로기와 어떤 손에 띵조 때지 동진이 니 쪼는데 시체보다는 띠 상디기 진고도 고문다오죠. 또 진고도 공부 송서라. 시송서. 어디 니와 전부 상사드네. 딱 그래서 원식이 뜻이 근데 코트네 그 맞으나 다 이기하는 싸웠는데 요식지가 근데 그 가능하세. 어때 자당아도 곰절소 곰새도 지금 셰럽기 차가 강식 일 강식 하고 지라 생기 동네 때 맞을라 진짜 싸우지 좀더 지라 또 곰새거라. 어때 자다 대 헛kalami 지다 전부터 상사우지 미 곰절도 뒤치나 지 상루 전에 자랑 전부 이게 놓드는지나 파속된 암덕당 전에 뒤 곰도 시는 거 되지 안데 하곰도 너 지금 놓드는 거면 되니와 요르지. 어떻게 해볼지.
Yes, the story is back to Bumbum, and it's Northeast Tibet, where I was audience and trained when I was very young. So in Bumbum, as tradition, every morning around 4:30, and you will hear the drum or bell and the startle and the beating. And normally is kind of a different sound. The sound like a started with a sort of a zzz, sort of a very gentle, smooth, and very soft. And then later on, what goes to kind of the noise getting like a dong, and so it's getting bigger and bigger. And it's so they always doing that. And one day, and out of curiosity, I asked my teacher. I said, "Teacher, why in the morning and before the ritual, we and the assembly, everybody get together in the assembly hall and prayer, and do the morning ritual while we started this awakening bell or the drum and beating, and start very soft and almost you can hear, and then you get it very loud." Then the teacher said, yes, that they have designed this way and has a very special reason, because in the morning and there are amongst lamas who practice meditation, so and in their own cell and their residence. So if you beat and then all of a sudden, and they're in the state of shamatthi, the meditative concentration, in the great tranquility, the state of great tranquility, or maybe doing something very profound, involved with the profound the realizations. So if you kind of all of a sudden and make a huge noise, and they could bring the disturbance and then destroy them from their that's a very noble state of realization, or could destroy them, awaken them from that state of tranquility or serenity. So for that reason, is that we need to do set the rule is set in this way. And he also, in addition to that, and shared one story with me, said back to, and my teacher was trained in Central Tibet. In I don't know the story is whether it's the person who involved with the stories taking place in Jibong or Sera, but one of the three Geluba monasteries in Central Tibet. And so one day that there was a lama and who yes, there's a very important lama, who is famous and everybody respected him very, regarded him very highly. And so he had a student and also aged senior monk who was appointed as to be the discipline master and to watch over the supervise the monks' monastic and discipline. And so he came into this very important lama, famous lama, said, you venerable master, and I've been appointed as a discipline master. Is there any other thing I need to know about, do about it? The master say, oh, no, that's great. You can serve the monastic community through this position, and just do your best and be mindful and rejoice what you have. You have that. So then this monk who began to start his service, and upon to and he completed his the post in the service successfully and smoothly from administration point of view. And then he went back to this High Lama, reported him very joyfully. He says, Master, and so thank you and for your blessing. And I completed my term, and now I'm very happy. I did what just like you said. Then the master, however, instead of press him, and the master said to him very seriously, said, well, and yes, you did quite well. However, you at one point you also accumulated one serious negative karma, and then that was caused the monk was shocked. He said, "How come I didn't beat up anyone? I didn't do anything violent or broken the rules and the monastical disciplines. How come I accumulated the negative karma?" He said, well, while you were supervising wander around in the assembly hall in the early morning prayer, during the prayer, the assembly hall, monks' prayer in the assembly hall, and you actually approached a monk who looks like sleeping or fell asleep, but he actually was meditating on the sacred mandala of Guhaya Samaja. Guhaya Samaja, a sacred highest yoga and tantra meditation form of. So he was in the state of that sacred mandala and in his meditative absorption. And he was in that state. And you went over and beat that huge stick actually, and as a discipline master of the monastery, they can hold a huge the stick and as a symbol of some kind of power. And so you went over the monk and you beat the floor with that stick so hardly, and waked him up, but that awaken actually destroyed his state of realization, and so that is quite a serious negative karma you accumulate by that event. Then he asked, then the monk asked him advice and how he can overcome this influence of this negative karma. The master advised him to start to practice the 106 syllable Vajrasattva mantra, and as the means of purification and to overcome the negative karma he accumulated. So the point I'm trying to making, I try to share with you is that, and meditation is aimed to achieve a state of the awareness. The state of awareness is aspect of the wisdom, which is a realization. And so once you be able to identify and then nourish it, and then expand it, and so there is a process involved. So with reflecting by, nourished by the reflect you need to maintain on this state of awareness. And so when somebody doing such a very sacred practice, so as you and someone who put next to him or them, you got to be very careful. They really become very significant. So therefore, and them is negative action.
Aba,
Oh,
di aku kunga gi shong ke shia kong ningyo roa, and din zang ke di tu yongyo re. Din zang aba ke she di akunga chichina kong gi mic di se ure, ya mute chi ure, ya mana kong gi volume di te chong so.
right. But
드니 살아도 못 제일 동안 시 드니 장도 파답 진이 좀 거다. 그 파고 거라. 나 이렇게 봐. 진짜. 단단히 표속 샴바를 보시더니 세르지 그 표속 샴바를 보지. 표속 샴바를 보지 그 성적 동안에 담뭐 제 코로나나 코라가 등을 전에 아니 민중국 사바당 잔나뭐 그 신지가 끝내는 드리지니 그 사통부터 나오는 일단 그 정도 멋지는 거 담았으면 가모셔서 그래. 가모셔로 가모치 컨디셔즈나 코너 리틀 참지기 나올죠. 네 만들 부터 야자 정도 뛰거나니 이도도 첨부죠. 이도도 첨부도 오늘 지지지 오늘 야ቆ를 막고 전이 키트 마소지. 키마도 왔더니 지지 파 로드 셔용이 지지 즈틀어서. 지지 즈틀려네 지지 디치기 도고가 예드잖아. 이 잠바지 되게 깜발 나빠니 자네 되게 이때 키도서 쓰세. 근데 그 상태라베 티 뉴스나 맞베스네 제모셔스. 그래서 제모쇼셔스. 또 맞도 그 정도 남지 되게 제모쇼게 진짜 말스 때. 어떻게 로지언 들으시지?
Yes, the High Lama now, I remember his name, and from Sarah, and his name is Venerable Champa Mitchell. And the Venerable Champa Mitchell is highly regarded for his meditative accomplishments and his the highest levels of the tantric practice. And then according to the story that and throughout the entire life, Venerable and Champa Mitchell Rinpoche only laughed hard for 3 times. And one time was he was in the meditation in the cave in the meditation as a retreat. That's a part of the ritual, and he made an offering in his altar. And one of the items that he used to make an offering is a piece of turquoise. So this turquoise is considered to be a precious thing. And one day, and to his acknowledgement, or he noticed that there was rats, actually mice. Mice come in, approached his altar, and then find that turquoise, and he was trying to take away, and with him, and but he tried several times and then fell. Then he left, and then to the Venerable Master Champa Mitchell, which is amazement. He come in with the other 4 mice, and mice, and I should say mouse, and now the 4 mice. He come in back, and with the 4 mice, and then he even what amazed him more is that this time one of the mouse who lying down on his back, and then the others managed to put this little turquoise on the top of this mouse's belly or stomach, and then other 4 of them, and they managed to do and hold the other Moses' legs and or arms, and then they pulled him and the Moses with the turquoise away. And at that point, and this Lama find that this is something very sympathetical and also funny and very creative. And then at that point, he loved the Lord.
다 같은 거 로유대 기타네 상스세비 냠는세의 간다 지고래 지시용수 다 상스세비 냠는 지용수 미스 지고와 당다 같은 런 로유대 다 지고는 바로 같이 시용으로 또 니지 가시고는 니지 네급지 지스 가시고 지용수 다 니지 지용으로다 다 상스 셈세의 간다즈나 셈지 담지게 등을 통네 떨리 등을 떨리 자나 삼비 삼노 형지기 형지저 심지터 대화당 다나 삼비 샴바지 때 지와 형지당 담바다 등을 자월세 자와지 덕지인 신이 덕지와라 동원벌 좀 상지고 근데 상지월 쉐발라 가르지나 바로 드신 버틀라 냠는 지고요 그랬다 다 바로 드신라 좀 냠는 지고 저 냠는 바로 드신 버틀라 냠는 지와라 당부 집이 바로라 집이 바로 집 버틀기 바로 저 바로 섬대 바로 좀 데비지 바로 드신 바로 좀 어떻게 못 들어오고서 던디 카드텔라 수수라 삼냥지 데리 사모 실라 기원서 아니 다 집에 바로 드신 바 다섬지 판도고 그러네 상지와라 르파니우 르미 용서 동안 좀 당연히 총이 무슨소가 정보에 그거 총이 상스발라 딘나 바로 드신 바능네 다 그러세나 랑돈도 젠돈 탈신 바세 지고 랑니 랑거 또 탈 용수소가 탈신을 시발은 요모와 용수 바방고 그랬지 아니 젠지돈 탈신을 시발 탐지키비 공방도 보고 그랬지 때문에 젠지 감도면은 셰트고 매타 탐지키비 공방 뜨니 토벌 시발라 손이 선 름이 장고고요 자니 드바니오 정화 드바니오 세데 시 드바등 요모이 드바도 시 드바스고 요모 드바도 가서 지금 어떤 거 레용고 코라코지 좀 요모를 봐. 시드바세도 하장 차모 내리 차모 도비 드바지를 연락다 좀 비결이요. 연락다 좀 요모 시드바 방 요모의 드바 방서 시드바 방요. 담지 기비고 못해 발라 드미 용조고 방고요. 그래서 때 방을 세 발라다 바로 드신 바트 냠는 지고 당보원이 발신 저때니 짐바 차점 조바 삼튼도 보기 잡고 그래. 조니 군주 다돈 군주 초초촌이 저 총이 저거다 초당보대 저 세반주 아니 셰르당 삼든지 당연히 뉴데 아니 다 돈된데 바지나 군주배 당 돈데비 저거 세바다 아니 땡이고 요르던다 됩니다 대사 다 바로 드신 바트 다 차상 르미용 저거 세발라 바로 드신 바트 용 저거 바로도 신고 바로도 신송나 때는 영어로 상기고 상기나 심지전도 무슨 저거다 다 단당 아주디 삽진로지나 다 짐바 땅에 갔다 짐바 간다 땅 거래 다 리다노스 짐바 땅 다 디카트 랩다 그랬어 산층로지나 하는 거 보잖아
Okay. So we are now still, and our topic is of course the same, like has been, which is the essential topic is the bodhicitta, the bodhisattvas practice, or the essence of the Mahayana, which is the awakening mind. So to practice awakening mind, we have discussed in terms of understanding and or develop the correct understanding that we have talked about that the bodhicitta and practice awakening mind, the practice involved with the two primary phases, or divided into two primarily two parts. And first is a preliminary practice, which is a preparational the activities and the learnings and contemplations and they involve with the preparation. So it's prepare yourself, be ready, and then the next is the actual practice itself. So in the actual practice that we know from the development stage or the preparational stage and preliminary during the preliminary stage, as we are preparing ourselves to or moving towards the actual practice of awakening mind, and we know that the first thing we need to understand is the nature of the life. So that means that to understand the state, the conditions, and the status of our physical, emotional, and mental state of a being, which is the dukkha. And the dukkha is the life involved with non-satisfaction and involve all kinds of sufferings from the obvious and the very painful and intense sort of pain, and to the subtle and the discomfort and so on and so forth. So that is our reality, and that's the condition in which we live. So you understand that in that restaurant, your own individual experience, and then you know that all sentient beings, and at this point, and they share the same this unsatisfaction and the dukkha, or the sufferings, and then you determined, then you had this greater developed the greater thoughts for the awakening mind. That mind is you want to free all sentient beings from such a states, and from the freedom from all kinds of sufferings. And up until you died, you made this, you resolved to do so, and then you know that in that very particular state of your life, or the who you are in that for the time being, and in that particular frame of the time, you are not able. You are you as far as the capacity and the understanding of the powers, resources, and all so on and so forth are concerned. You are limited, so you can't do it like the how you wish. So then you determined to attend those powers, right? Then that means that meaning that the skillful means and knowledge and the wisdom and compassion and transcendental wisdoms. Right? And so the way to then become omniscient, right? Omniscient Buddha, and someone and who whose mind is perfectly and who has the wisdom that who is completely enlightened, and who understands the perfectly everything and as it is. And so then so you know that only Buddha is entitled or in the position that it can and appropriately address each individual's problem based upon and according to their interests, tastes, and their individuality and the conditions and their predispositions and so on and so forth. So, and then you further develop the understanding and a correct view. You know that to be a Buddha, and has to perfect the to perfect the six Parajana Paramita, meaning that you have to accomplish the six great perfections, and that's you have to have the path, rely on the power of the path to achieve the omniscient Buddha, to become a Buddha or achieve Buddhahood. So these great six great perfections, Parajana Paramita, and as we know that is they are so the great perfection of giving or generosity and ethics and the or moral ethic, and then patience and then joyful perseverance, meditation, and wisdom. So this great perfection and has to be perfected in order to become a Buddha, because we know, and as we studied, we learned before, or we talked before, that to be a Buddha, we have to overcome the two serious obstacles or obscurations. So one of the obscurations is obscurations of afflictive emotion, and so the second obscuration is obscuration to the knowledge. So we have to overcome those two, and so therefore the way to overcome these two obscurations and the very technique we needed to adopt and use is the six great perfections, Paritinaparamita. And also from other perspective, when we look at the Buddhahood or the way to achieve the Buddhahood, we know that the Buddha is the one who perfected or perfectly achieved or accomplished the two accumulations or two collections, the collection of merits and the collection of wisdom. And again, if you look at the relationship between these two collections, the collection of merits and the collection of wisdom, you know that from the first great perfection, the great perfection of giving and moral ethics and then patience or tolerance, and the joyful perseverance, and part of the meditation, and then they are aimed to and help you, and they're designed to help you to achieve the first collections of the first collection, as a collection of merits, and then the meditation and the part of the meditation and the wisdom itself, and is designed as a means to help you to achieve the collection of wisdom. So yes, by the means of perfecting the two collections or accomplish the two collections, and then you can overcome the two obscurations. And as a result of successfully eradicate the two obscurations, and you can achieve the what we call the two benefits or two purpose. Two benefits or two purposes. The first is the benefits of yourself, and benefits for others, or you can say that the purpose of the self and the purpose of the others. The purpose of the self is involved with the afflictive emotions. The afflictive emotion and is something that's as a hindrance and as obstacle and as a negative thing which prevents you and from the liberation. So by accomplish or achieve the two collections of the merits and wisdom, and then you can overcome the problems of the afflictive emotion. So the moment you are completely be able to banish or uproot the afflictive emotion and its seed, its propensity, and then you accomplish the benefits of the self or the purpose of the self. And at the same time, so the benefits of others is means that is referred to the accomplishment or the achievement of the wisdom and the omniscience of word. The wisdom is that here in this particular context is referred to the realization of the pure view, which perfectly understand the nature of reality, the actuality of all that existed. Yeah. And so why this is be named after the purpose of others is because only by accomplish or achieve the wisdom, the collection of wisdom, then you are, just like we talked a moment ago, you have the power and can fully see, understand that each individuals and particular circumstances and their interest and their temperament and their behavior and their individuality. So then, you can teach them, you can address their problems appropriately and effectively. So that's why, and to attain the enlightenment is critical, or to become a Buddha, achieve Buddhahood is critical. Why? Because if you compare the Arhat, we know that the Arhat is free from the problems of the afflicted motion, meaning they perfectly achieve the self benefits and or self purpose. They completely attend to the perfect state of nirvana. But that state of nirvana is the self benefits, is self purpose. And even though they have no any trouble, and they're not subject to any afflictive emotions, and no afflictive emotions whatsoever can bother them. However, and because they haven't yet achieved this great perfection of wisdom, so therefore, and they cannot really address the other beings, or according to the each individual's different circumstances, perfectly or properly to help them and to uproot the root cause of their samsaric suffering. So therefore, it is critical and to not just achieve or accomplish the self-purpose, self-benefits, but rather to achieve both the self purpose and the others purpose. And so that's how, and we know that why we talk about, when we talk about bodhicitta, we have to talk about the 6 great perfections. And so to talk about 6 great perfections, and we needed to start with the first one. The first great perfection of Bharatana Paramita is the dana, and or the gift, a giving, or the generosity. And so we are talking. We are in this particular subject now. And so talk about it again. It's literally how you can practice the Bharatana Paramita dana or the giving, the generosity. So now we are being taught as how to prepare ourselves and to take our body as the object offering and give to others, and as well as our verbal capacity as the object of offering, and also as our mind as the object of offering and to give to others.
다 같은 가지고 대강내 진로 리당당로 자정 로래 다들이요 마다 삼진로 니와드나 절동화던 논동화오 시소송 삼진 니와 로와 니와 델리당나 달 당당데 갈 지지 삼진나네 쳇드 점바 당화도 노지 직등 간지 담바 니 지숑다 지지 삼진 그도 정어 삼진데라 람드 식바다 람드 마식바 니 샤오즈 니 샤모 다 람드 마식바데라 당본데 랑디 리용스 소아 소피 다 찬일 열 초르잖아 소바 당일 열 니치와라 소 닌코르위 섬진 일와 진이 요바 남라 동네 대다 탐지 서지지스다오 서지지스 저 서든 저와터 파비 노르든지 시피 토리 연든 든든기 단줄기 리 샤르토 토퍼 사모스 입진기 노로 림보치 레 세기 소강 라 젠도 발 종와터 랑진 입진기 리스 셰발리 미 무길 데타라 카시 로자당 도기 기 동창 잘와 칸바 짝바 납자 몰음 식트 답비 조 푸숨 소파 때
It's 11 o'clock.
롱출 때비 일강라 롱초바 때땅 강땅 산치 롱초비 콜파수 소파 탐지경 탁과 제목 담비 치드비 팅게드 드버 사모즈네 더버트지나
So now we're going to read from page 63. And earlier or before, we talked about the way to how to prepare ourselves, like Asanga, basically says here. What Asanga is teaching here can be explained in terms of given to the inhabitants who are living beings, and given to the environment which beings inhabit. The first of these involve the giving to those not engaged in the spiritual path and offering to those who are. So now, the first is giving to those not engaging in spiritual path. We should first give our bodies to the beings in the 8 hot hells, such as the revival hell, then to the beings in the 8 cold hells, such as the blistering hell. Then we should give to the beings in the surrounding hells and to beings in the occasional hells, where suffering are felt intermittently. To these beings, we should give whatever we can, transforming everything just as an alchemical elixir changes iron into gold. We should imagine that those beings attend lives with the freedom and opportunity to practice the doctrine. We should think that they are enriched with the 7 jewels of and exalted beings, as well as the 7 good qualities of higher status. Just as the precious vision fulfilling jewels provides whatever we desire, such as food and clothing, so should we imagine that in giving away our bodies, they grant all wishes, manifest as food, imbued with the 100 flavors, clothing to the value of the 1,000 gold coins, and mentions with 500 flowers, and excellent companies. We act only as an inspiration. We are associated with enjoyments, who are associated with enjoyment, who delight in whatever objects are to be enjoyed, and who surrounded by their possessions are replete with everything. They are also to be imagined as being a favorable factor for the accomplishment of a very higher teaching of the great people.
그렇다. 대차다 semchina lama shibi semchina dwarik yor dwarik nani ta dan di khatkte ta dwarik nani dingil shishu do nyilwa chko yoi na chawa chanil ge dang tang ge jene odu samlo tang chanil ta tangil sope nyilwa gel ta tang ta yang nye chewi nywa nykhuri nywa di chala te de nywa thno yasel zo ta nyangam chobji se go tu chama ani 근데 대 영코로 탐저 진이 요바 탐지 아니 탐지 가서 서기스나 서기스에도 뭐만 뭐를 그런 좀 좋아서 좀 떠네 ಚಾಲ್ 때들라 파 당전나 참았대 오도 서든지 로서 서든지 서기스 그 서든지 타와 나진 이 나진 안에 소소고 로아르트 따다 간돌라데 양금 쪽질로 비 로아드 탐질라 안에 파비 노르든지 신기라네 파비 노르든지에네 시기 토리 연든 된당다비 단줄기 리샤도 토벌 사모세 어떤 탐제르비 파비 노르드제나 데르샤 다비 노르 스톰지 노르 티위 노르 똥의 노르 모사 시위 노르 체여빙 노르 셰르프지 노르시 노르든 뜻 탐지 길라 뜻통마 시와당 저라 뜻 탐지 영화라 네베 영화도 탐지 레강 그트비 뜻 마르비 공도 charlo스 땡 기위 겨와 탐지 따네 데 파비 노르든 기베 니와당 담바쩌네 아니 토리기 연든 담바텔리 그리 입준지 리타고 기 탐네 데 탐지라 아니 세당 노르당 게당 소수군도 베니 지연도 퍼서 소바 차진도 강바당 세노라 소바 데리 쩐네 시 노지 퍼서 소바 탐지 제송 삼 어떤지 검색거다.
So the contents of our meditative training, meditative practice here in terms of to develop and to perfect our first great perfection and of wisdom, that is the dana prajna paramita, or the giving generosity prajna paramita. We know that we have to start with by thinking that there's two forms of beings that we are closely associated with. One is the being who haven't yet joined the path of the liberation, and then second categorization of the beings those who have already joined or entered the path of the liberation. So now let's start with by imagine and meditate. Imagine the beings who haven't yet engaging or enter into the path of the doctrine, the path of the liberation. So when our meditation essentially need to start with thinking of the lowest or the most troubled sentient beings, and then taking them under our consideration, and then out of our great compassion and kindness and power of compassion and kindness, and then take them mentally, and then imagine their circumstances, and then giving and our body, or take our body mentally as an object of the offering, and they give them and fulfill each of their desire respectively. So first of all, we know that from Buddhist cosmology and or Buddhist understanding of the domains of life, or the categorizations of life, or the status of life, and they're essentially from the Buddhist cosmological point of view, all the entire life forms of life has been divided into 6 different categories, and then those 6 beings are been divided against a lower and then higher, those 2 forms. So among the lower and the most troubled is the hell's being. So the hellish being, and generally speaking, there are 18 of them, like the text said about there are beings who are and suffered this hellish being essentially, and who have been suffered tremendously. By the heat, like it's hot actually, and the heat or hot in hells, and those who are suffered in it's cold, and then others are as occasional and or the surround and the occasional hells. So in our meditation, we need to think about due to the negative karma, or as the consequences of negative karma, those beings end up in such a temporary, and again, from the Buddhist philosophical point of view, and they are suffered, they end up there, and they endure tremendous pain. So what do we need to do as our acts of generosity? We need to take our body and imagine that that's the object we're going to take, and then in our meditation, and give it to them, and to those who are suffered with lack of food and drink, or need clothes, or need shelter, and they need any form of protections. We take them mentally and they give it to them, and they fulfill their desire, and help them to pacify or free from the sufferings of caused by anything that which troubles them in that particular circumstances. So the way then what we do, and in our meditation, is that by the power of our compassion and loving kindness, the way we by taking our body mentally, offer those beings, and then the spiritual power of or spiritual transformative power of this practice can be resembled, and like that of ancient Indian and practice, meaning that it has been a tradition in ancient India, and then there are some very highly specialized individual who practice alchemy. So those alchemic practitioner, they can transform they made the elixir, or produce the elixir, and then they use the elixir and place it on the piece of iron, and then by the power of the elixir which they produced alchemically, and then they can transform or change that cheap and regular matter such as iron into gold, and then can fulfill the needs by the things which others needed. So here this example tells us that teaches us that our genuine and perfect understanding, or the pure intention, and the genuine action as to give our body and as the object of offering in our meditation, also can be, and as far as the power itself is concerned, it can be like the elixir, make the ordinary iron into gold. So our bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, because of this power, and then it can transform our body and in our meditation, and then give it to the all beings, and help them to overcome all the troubles. So we do this, and by thinking of about 6 all sentient beings, and then aimed to first of all free them from their conditioned, temporary and miserable and conditions, which is like in the 18, one of the 18 or all 18 of the beings from 18 the hells. What we do is that by upon freedom and from their current miserable conditions, then we offer them with a different thing, and that different thing is here is called the 7 jewels and of exalted the 7 and jewels and the power of the 7 jewels of precious 7 virtuous and spiritual qualities, the 7 jewels. The 7 noble or exalted jewels are so first way is the faith, meaning that upon the free from their current suffering, then they can develop the first achieve having the first and the exalted jewel, that is the faith in Dharma, and then the second jewel is the moral ethics. They can adopt it and engage in or live by the moral ethics. And the third is hearing, meaning that study or contemplating and collect the spiritual knowledge. And then the fourth is giving and generosity, meaning that they began and themselves and the practice of generosity. Then next jewel is the shame. So knowing the shame, they develop the strong sense of strong sense of shame. And then after that, and they also develop be able to endure the way another quality, that's the embarrassment. And then finally, they develop the wisdom that understand the actuality or the nature of reality. So, and then, so we do that kind of transforming the other beings and through our meditation of generosity in such a way is kind of a stage by stage and so leading them. And by essential quality and the understanding is this, that so all beings are and suffer due to their own and karma, by they've been sort of driven by and turned around by their own individual forces of the individual karma. So we realize that, and then we wish to, and we develop the wish that we want to free them from such circumstances, and by the means of our own practice, and lead them or help them to attain the liberation.
진짜다 남바상지 용나네 셰나네 치포이면데 박베 노르당 담바 노르든당 담바는 좀 치포리다 데메나 좀 치포리요 말이 방고리 더래 이제 우까지 연나라 센도도다 치포이다 쓰게요 말이 포베 노르데 가르즈나 또 미디기라 다파 요메 땅고 수지라 다파 요바당 스톰세 링거니 우도 소 송자 들어와 틈 송아 들어와 링거 틈데 링거 예쇼돔니다 저 가자 강장만 시와 지 ዝፖለ 강장만장 사도 통화 강장 때 쳐즈마도 티와치나 아니 기위 쇼트다 기위 쇼트 파 암종년이 랑도르 게 벌써 동화전에 소소를 정신 그 링거 있음 그 쇼바도 젠지던데 파 땅토 잘라로치 토와들 좀 바로와 아니 뭐자 시와데나 아니 랑 점진진이 제마트로 들리진다 요거 바로 나라 미주 시게스니 제마치도 왔대 뭐차 시와 체요바세데 젠점스지니 어디지나 요거 말니 쪼부주 강말 때지니 파마주 그 삼고 때리 삼는 때는 삼는 잘라때니 때리가 맞지야지 그런 랑일라 삼니 쳐즈마데 뭐자 시와래 잘라 삼는 땅네 때지나 요거 말 그저 섬교를 용말 세 때리지니 저한테 체요바 뭐자요 체요바 다 셰르세데 내리고 뭐마테 하 랑토르 제통 삼노더와 어때 든당 담바이나 다 치포르스 박베 노르당 담바 노르든 담바 축복을 쓰고 그랬어요.
In Buddhism, believe it or not, and the Buddhism has a completely different way to assess or consider someone whether who is rich or poor. And the rich and the poor in Buddhism is assessed by whether you have endured with this what they call the 7 exalted jewels. And whoever endowed with this 7 exalted jewels is considered to be who he or she is very rich. So the 7 jewels of exalted being, 7 jewels of exalted being are, as we talked about it before, which is first is the faith. So in other words, that in Buddhism, if you do not have no idea or do not endure with these 7 jewels of exalted being, then it doesn't matter how much money you have, whether you other called you billionaire or millionaire, and you are actually the beggar. You're nothing better than beggar. But on the other hand, if you do have in order with this 7 exalted the jewels of exalted being, and then you are actual billionaire or a rich person. So that's how Buddhism thinks. Now let's go quickly over again about those 7 the jewels. First jewel is the faith. Faith here is that you have the faith in the Dharma, and you have the faith in the law of causality, and you have the faith in the wisdom that realizes the nature of reality. And then the moral ethics. Second jewel, moral ethic primarily focuses on your bodily behavior and all the regulation or some kind of rules that regulates your bodily behavior and your verbal behavior. So the rules or ethics that regulates your bodily behavior, and that meaning that from the prevent you, restrain you from the harmful action by the body. And also, the verbal and the ethics or the rules that prevent you, and they created the troubles and or harms with your verbally or through the verbal behavior. So that's the second. That's the second contents of the second jewel, the moral ethics. Then the third one is hearing. Hearing is here meaning there's a study. You can consider as research and or learning the process of learning itself. But this learning in particular the focus is on spirituality, meaning that it doesn't matter which subject you're learning, but essentially you have to aim to use this knowledge through the process to understand the right action that needed to be taken and the wrong action that needed to be abandoned. So taking and discard and properly executed the right action and also effectively abandon the wrong action, and that is the purpose of hearing. That's what the hearing is aimed to do or to achieve. And then the fourth jewel is giving or give away or being generous. And the generosity give away here that is you provide service, right? And you serve others. You give the others when they need it and under the circumstances is appropriate, and you could do it. So that is the fourth jewel of the exalted being. And then the fifth one is the shame. So knowing shame is inward, forward towards something towards yourself. And suppose you're doing something, and then you realize, oh no, I cannot doing this, because if other people find out, and they will damage my reputation, the credibility, and then you feel you can handle and you can deal with it. You just feel that is a very shameful thing to do. So then you restrain yourself, and so that's the fifth jewel of exalted being, knowing shame. And then by contrast, embarrassment is not directed towards not towards yourself, but directed towards others. Meaning that up until the moment you want doing something, and then you realize that if you're doing that, it could bring the potential harm to other beings, and or upset them or him or her, and make them very unhappy. And then at that point, I cannot do that because my action, right, would create such a negative impact on that individual and on those individuals. And so I just can't do that. That's a very bad thing. So, and knowing that and realize this, and then restrain yourself from such a behavior, and then that is the knowing the embarrassment. And then finally, the seventh jewel of exalted being is the wisdom. And the wisdom, again, in the general sense, so there's levels of the wisdoms, and but generally speaking, the wisdom is the state of your intelligence, and that state of intelligence by abiding on that state of intelligence, and you know perfectly, and in the right moment, in the right place, the right time, in doing make the right decision. And like we talked about, you know what exactly to actually need to take, and what action you needed to abandon or stop in doing. So in the subtle level, and again, wisdom here as the last jewels of exalted being is the wisdom of the state of mental intelligence, and that perfectly or fully see the actuality or the nature of reality.
그래. 단 놈도 놀기 있잖아. 미 무치스나 삼동에나 다파세다 소소랑이랑 이치고 봤더래. 첨세한테 첨송하다 랑그 이첨 땅 약하고 첨송하더래. 티와세한테 소소 홈종에 고치기지고. 동화세다 랑징가 당가 랑징가 노르땅 리동주 연기던데 배초땅 틈고지고. 당 어쩌시와 첨 요바세데 랑짐선데 젠짐지네 니슐은 젬바더래. 셰르세한테 닐링 오마테 똑버터비 남술 담바지르. 또 첨보 던다나 미때다 미차든 차더. 다 체크힐 나리 체크멜레나 때 고기 오르지. 야,
여기 좋아하는 것도 그 토착하지 않습니다.
아.
그게 소기의 육성의 토.
예. 답파세다랑 런이런 일 이치 왔더라. 다가 내가 가르치는 거 이치 세다고. 처음세한테 소소이랑 진 직들 첨송 왔더라. 약간 다른 이첨 강당 첨송 왔더라. 티와세한테 소중 요거 징이더라. 동화세한테 랑당 젠기 노 랑글 리 롱초 젠기 돈데 고주지 터왔더라. 당 오자시와 최요세데 랑짐진이 잘라니 춘저바 랑 젠짐진이 예춘저바더니 오자 틈저다. 셰르브세한테 다 닐리 칸당 칸토나 소송원에 마노라 탁주지 템고 지고. 따때 미미치기 나나 고아르지. 미 차든지기나 따때라 남바선이 치보세 버지. 니와 진짜 걸 딱 건드려.
Okay, let me just sum up what the essence of those 7 jewels of exalted beings. So essentially, I said this is very, very important. Why? Because it's a Buddhist way to define whether you are rich or poor, right? And so therefore, this is another only very interesting, but it's very important. So let's say go back about the faith. Faith, in a very simple term, you can understand the faith. You have the self-confidence. Okay? You have the confidence, self-confidence. You trust yourself. You can do the develop all the carry out all the virtuous action. Okay? So having faith in yourself that you can be a virtuous, decent person and can do all kinds of virtuous deeds, and that is the faith in the simple term. And then next is moral ethics. Moral ethics is follow the rules, follow the laws, rule of law, and in a simple way, again, wherever you are, and follow the commonly agreed the rules or the laws of the particular country where you are living. And then the hearing or the study, and as the fourth jewels or third jewels of exalted being, that means that's a study, learning, right? And get yourself being trained, informed, and become skillful and become knowledgeable. So that is the third jewels of exalted being. And then the next is the generosity. Generosity is to give away. Give away what it means that so up until you accumulate it and you are entitled and or you possess it, you possess. Okay, either is knowledge, material wealth, a good name, and the social and ranking and any form of power. So you'll be able to give away, be able to use it and it benefits others, right? Like you have the money and then use them and to benefit others. If you have knowledge, again, take it and then use it and to give it to others and to benefit others. So this is the essence of the giving or generosity. It's the fourth jewels of exalted being. And then the next is knowing shame. So knowing shame is that because you do not want to be condemned, right, and be judged and being sort of abandoned or criticized. So then, in order to protect your own and good reputation, your the reputable image, and so you restrain yourself and not doing any misdeeds and create any other harms. So that's the essence of knowing shame. And then next is the embarrassment. So you know that doing anything by doing anything, if that brings create the consequence, negative consequences to others, make others suffer and upset, and then you immediately stop doing that. And so that's the essence of embarrassment. And then the wisdom, and finally, wisdom is the power of decision making. And so you make the right decision and appropriately execute your action or direct you and yourself and in the particular circumstances. That's in the conventional sense, in the conventionally. But ultimately, we know wisdom in this context as the means of Buddhist spiritual and practice is the intelligence which can help you to have the direct perception, a direct realization, and help you to see the actuality and with your own mind.
야소 다 좋아요. 나 지도도 좀 송들다. 통통 가지고 맨날 너만
So I think over and so do you have any quick questions?
좋아 메고 봐. 좋아 맨날 아니 때 박비 노르는데 놓고 잡시라. 때는 못 지웠어.
So if you have no questions, I give you something and I want you to take it away with you and keep it and never lose it. That is the 7 jewels of exalted beings.
그런 게 라요 다시요나 다 랑게 직벌이더스. 다 맨날 탑시단 거지.
Yeah, I also would like to ask you and quietly examine yourself and see how rich or how poor you are. And if you have those 7 exalted jewels and the 7 jewels of exalted being, it means that you are really a true billionaire and very, very rich. If you think you do not have them or have a little of them, then you need to work hard. You need to work hard. Make yourself rich.
야. 잠시. Tang zo shou gun chang jir ji. Zawe lama rambu chi. Da so nyen gar ban mi tang ji la ka chen chen bu gu ni ji zong de ka song de ji ngi zhe sa de so shang zhi sen zhuo rambu. Ji jir ji jie wa nyang ba me par yang kong li kong de su ri shou kang re ra we ku le xin guan de pen dang de wa ma ni zhong wi. Chan zhe zi hong tan zi jiang zu yi sha pe sen jie bar de tan jir ji. Chitran chen ba tang kan de zong wo de yang de zhen de da kan ji ji si da lo zhe ye wa de da tan ji ra de ngo de sun sha pe ya wa tam ji. Ngo wa gang la chou de nga ba de da zhen gi wi za wa de kan jia zong wo ju shi ra de ngo er ye pan de zhong de tan ba da shi. Tan zhen ji wo tam ji geng geng zong de zhen gong na de zhen zhong wei ni sang ji tan ba dong de yi ji de ji. Cerveau kunde yawa kongda we tangzhou xinyan rangi sen da be de yawe nga be lang zang de nye ka chi zayang do bar ma jar chi. Ala so, ka chen che. Thank you, yeah.